Hi, beautiful souls. Welcome back to this Astrology, Human Design, and Jinkies channel. With me today, Tan, and I'm here with my soul sisters, Cindy and Sarah. And we are going to be talking about a very interesting transit that's happening this year, and that is the North Node changing signs and moving into Aries, and the South Node into Libra. But before we begin, we have an exciting announcement to make, and that is that we are hosting a free online masterclass for astrology, human design, and the gene keys, and rituals as well. That's going to be happening this month, later in July. So we love to do this for you guys and have you join us and get to know who you are if you're watching this channel. And then you have the opportunity to learn more as well about astrology, human design, and the gene keys, if that's something that's new to you. And if it's not, then there's still lots of opportunities to learn as well. So if you're interested in joining this free masterclass, then please visit the link below that I'm providing. It's also going to be in the description box and also in the comment to hyphensoul.com, where you can sign up. And if you want to stay tuned to more astrology, human design, gene keys, spiritual content that we make, then also feel free to check out our Instagram page and follow us there at hyphensoul. All right. So that's really exciting for us, right, Cindy and Sarah?
Yes. Yeah. Long time coming.
So without further ado, we're going to begin today's video by looking at the North Node transit moving into Aries. But before we do that, we do want to give a quick overview of what the North Node means in astrology and what the South Node means in astrology. So how do you guys go about interpreting that for yourself, the North Node and South Nodes?
I would say, like, on a very theoretical, or from a theoretical point of view, the nodes are basically the 2 points where the moon's orbit is kind of crossing the sun's ecliptic path. I think that's how you can envision it the easiest.
Yeah, and so those are really intense points because they're conjunctions as we know them. They're points that the luminaries line up. So you can imagine that the themes of the sun and the moon coming together happen at these eclipse points at an even greater intensity. So yeah, then the North Node is kind of represented as this head of the dragon, Rahu, that has tasted the sweetness of the honey, the nectar of heaven, but has not been able to satiate the body with it. So constantly desiring, but never able to fulfill itself. And then Ketu, or Ketu, or Ketu, even as I've heard it, the tail of the dragon or the body of the dragon, is that body that is wandering around looking for the head aimlessly. So also kind of in this obsessive way. So the idea is to bring the dragon together. And so in doing so, you're balancing your nodes, or the nodes are being balanced.
Yeah, definitely. I look at it as balance for sure. And some people would even look at the South Node as being also an ancestral karma or an ancestral healing or wounding that is required before you can kind of step into the North Node and master the themes of the North Node, which sometimes it's like a soul purpose or a soul mission, but it's also interesting that it can also be interpreted as like a material gain that you actually achieve in the material world as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think the North Node is also kind of representing like the ascension point here. Like if we look at how it's going to influence us on a collective level, then the North Node is something that we're gaining, or where growth and expansion is happening. And on the other side, we have the South Node, which kind of shows where we are releasing stuff, or where we are kind of letting go of things that are no longer serving us.
Yeah. And with that being said, how would you guys now interpret in general the North Node moving into Aries with the South Node in Libra? What are some of your thoughts on that? I could begin.
yeah, why not?
Yeah. I mean, it is North Node in Aries, so that's initiating, right? So you gotta go first. So yeah, that's basically, I think, one of the main themes of North Node being in Aries is initiation in some way, shape, or form, and just kind of not having to overthink and kind of going with your gut or going with an instinct in order to pursue a particular vision or goal in a straightforward manner. That's kind of what we're, as a collective, being fated, we can say, as a collective destiny. That's the fate that's coming to us, and then kind of releasing a little bit or experiencing that decrease with the Libra energy, which is to always go back to the mind or to be unsure of your intuition and to seek too much feedback from other people before you can act. So that's kind of what we're moving towards collectively.
Yeah, I think also if we're going to focus later a little bit on the gene keys, that those nodes are shifting through in the next 18 months, basically, then I think the theme of like this Aries theme of how can I still act on the behalf of myself while I kind of still check out like for the own self-interest and can kind of please also the people around me, like this Libra theme. How can we integrate the healthy version of like taking care of other people while having the motivation and the will of Aries to really initiate and go forward?
Yeah, I was just sensing into how appropriate it was that there was hesitation to like initiate on that, and then Tan was like taking, so that is like an actual manifestation of the energy, that it would feel like there's hesitation because I don't want to step on anybody's toes. A conversation is happening here, somebody's looking like they might be going to say something but maybe, you know, not, because they're also waiting on me. So that energy also experienced through the next 18 months. After what have we been doing for Taurus and Scorpio? It's been really digging deep, getting rid of things that we don't need anymore, that have just been sitting around, like material things that have just been sitting around. So we've been eliminating things and figuring out what really matters to us on a resource level. And now we're moving into balancing self and other.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned the North Node and Taurus themes as well. Just gonna add a little bit some keywords that I wrote down based on the gene keys of Aries, and I want to look at the gift of the gene keys of Aries as in terms of like, okay, this is what we may be experiencing collectively, a gain or an increase in. So that would be innovation, an increase in farsightedness, an increase in initiative, an increase in authority, increase in acceptance, and increase in detachment. That's interesting because I almost feel like when I'm looking at these as like, I don't know, the way they go together, it's kind of like a warrior that goes to war, right? As a warrior, I mean, you got to have strategy, you got to have farsightedness, you got to have be able to innovate even, and consider your authority. Okay, like, are you the leader of that, in the war zone, or are you like following somebody else's authority? But then you also have acceptance and detachment, which makes me think a lot about death and to finally let go and surrender to the fight sometimes. Because Aries is the fighter, but at one point you're gonna have to be like, okay, well, maybe I just need to enjoy, or I just need to be in the moment instead of trying to fight my way through. And because that's kind of what we come to at the end of life is death and surrender. And then of course we have the South Node in Libra, which I'm going to look at the shadow for the gene keys of Libra as a decrease point. So we would, in that case, be having, we can say, a decrease in judgment, a decrease in seriousness, a decrease in unease, a decrease in inadequacy, a decrease in failure, and a decrease in corruption. So in this case, I'm looking at this as kind of like, Libra is that sign that can judge itself and can be thinking about what other people are going to think. And that's causing a lot of this unease and feeling like you have failed and feeling like you're not enough. And, kind of looking at that as a decrease point so you can step into the qualities of Aries.
Yeah, I think from a human design point, like most of the gates or gene keys, the Libra South Node will transit through are in the splenic center. And the splenic center has a lot to do with like unconscious fear. So I guess the next month are really where all these like hidden subconscious fears and scarcities are coming up that we have to let go in order to move forward. And to then have kind of with the Aries, like facing a balance between selfishness on one side and selflessness on the other side with the Libra energy here.
Yeah, so war general is the perfect archetype for this. Somebody that's strategic and, you know, serving the collective, but also obviously for the benefit of the self, because one needs to survive in order to lead.
Yeah. Right. Beautiful. So do you guys have, oh yes, the dates. We should also mention.
Yes.
We almost forgot that.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So the North Node will be moving into Aries. I have here July 18, can be July 17, depending on kind of where you are in 2023, until January 11, 2025. So those are the dates of the North Node being in Aries, and the South Node in Libra.
And did we have previous dates? Because I think it was like 2004 to 2006. Because it was like 18 years ago. So,
yeah, it was December 2004 to June 2006.
Awesome.
Yeah, so maybe a good idea to contemplate what happened in your life during those times as well, because those themes will be kind of coming up again, but of course with more maturity for those 18 years, right?
Hopefully.
Okay, so shall we begin with the Aries Rising? You have, well, of course, the North Node going to your first house and the South Node in Libra in the 7th house. So this is going to be very Aries Risings probably have this as the most prominent transit of all, I would say, the risings, except for maybe Libra Rising. But these cardinal angles, you know, 1st, 4th, 7th, 10th house they're going to play a big impact in your life. You're going to notice the fate and the destiny when the North and South nodes are there. So I would look at this as, because the 1st house is your physical body, your instinct, your life path. So there's really going to be a fate and a destiny coming to that increase in your independence and your ability to initiate just out of pure instinct. Like this is just a pure Aries theme that's really coming up. But also at the same time, with the South Node being in Libra, there's also this dance of, I like to look at these two axes as the axis of give and take and equal give and take. And you're going to be going through this theme of, am I giving more than receiving, or am I just receiving and taking more than I'm giving in partnerships and in relationships, which is the 7th house, and balancing, okay, this is my independence, this is what I want to do, but I still maybe have to consider other people along the way and balance that out a little bit. So I feel like sometimes with the South Node being in the 7th house, it could lead to some kind of separation or people that are not meant to be in your life anymore, just not being there. Sometimes it is experienced as divorce, but we don't have to, label it as anything. It's just more of that like separative energy that's coming up. And that's probably because they're just not a part of your fate anymore. And that's just the way it has to be. And if you find that, you have been maybe taking more in relationships, or you're giving too much, the consequences will be felt. And that consequence is sometimes, okay, it's better off to separate and to not have to be together in that way. I also feel like a physical body kind of change might also be happening. Maybe you're considering the way that you dress or the way that your hair is. Maybe there's something that you want to actually do, with your body that's going to change. Maybe going to the gym, getting more active, just because, health and vitality is going to be quite important for you these days as well. And so we are, for you as well, you'll be experiencing that release point with those keywords that I mentioned previously, but in partnerships, one-to-one partnerships of all types. So you, for example, releasing, having a decrease in seriousness in partnerships, or having a decrease in judgments in partnerships. So take these words and kind of contemplate them and see how it feels for you. I think that'll be my interpretation there.
Yeah, I think it's just a time for the Aries Rising where they really express who they want to be, and where they're not anymore focusing so much on maybe the desires and the needs of the other people, where they like really can take a step back and say, okay, in my relationships, how did I express myself? Did I really just like focus on the needs of others? Or did I take enough space for myself, for example?
Yeah.
Yeah. The nodes were in my 1st and 7th house recently, not just this past round, but yeah. So I remember fiercely independent and very focused on me and no longer trying to balance my life with somebody else's life. And even if that means that you can still be in your relationship in order to do that, that's just very important that you're able to communicate that to whoever the partner is, that they know that right now I have to focus on me. And if that means that you can't be a part of that, then that's your decision. But I want you to be a part of my change. That's what has to be said.
Yeah, I think with us all having Gemini risings, we just experienced this.
Yeah.
I think it was it was 2020 to sometime in beginning of 2022 or something.
Apocalypse, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and even for myself, with that North Node being the first house, was also wanting to do my own thing. But then that was also when I was entering into a partnership with Aryan, of course. And then there was a lot of, I got to do my own thing, but I'll help you out because we moved to a new house and we have to do stuff with the house. I'll help you out, but now I got to do my thing. I'll help you out now, but now I got to do my thing. So it's just going back and forth between that. And if you can figure that out, you can find a way to balance that. It could work. But if not, then yeah. Shall we move to the Taurus rising?
Yes.
Okay.
So for all the Taurus rising out there, your North Node in Aries is going into your 12th house. That means that the South Node is moving into your 6th house of day-to-day life, of health, of nutrition as well here. So this is basically a time where you will probably prioritize your mental health, I would say, like really prioritize rest and relaxation here as well. And maybe even giving up on things like specific working habits or the wrong diet, for example, to really improve not only your physical health, but also your mental health. I guess that the next 18 months are also going to give you some more juicy insights into your shadow sides, I would say, like with this 12th house placement here. And that means that it can come with like letting go of a job, for example, or maybe at least of some habits that are actually not anymore beneficial to you. And now it's really the time where you actually feel it. Like maybe before you got a glimpse of, that's not so healthy for me, but you didn't really have the drive or the motivation to change something. And now the energy is coming in to like really initiate here and initiate change into your day-to-day life. So that will come also with maybe new routines and also a new spiritual practice, I would say, that can really involve the body as well. I mean, because Aries is a fire sign, like you have to kind of move your body to get this energy going. But on the other side, you also need solitude to like get or kind of get space in your mind for the insights to come. And then with the 12th house, as also your sleeping patterns are really, really important. So really take time to actually check in and see what kind or like what amount of sleep do you actually need. And then you can make space for also insightful dreams here. That could be very, very beneficial with this placement in the next 18 months.
Yeah, this has been a period of time these past 2 years when it's been my 12th and 6th house where I've really noticed how my routines and my patterns of thought have an impact on my subconscious, my unconscious, and how I can do different things in my day and completely change my internal world. And I can completely change my internal world by sitting in meditation and change my external world. So you really notice that dynamic of your environment and your agency in this time period, I think.
Yeah, I want to say the other thing about the 12th house is that it can be a house of illusions and, feeling disappointed from some illusions. So I do feel that there is going to be this theme of like being a go-getter or going after something that maybe you think is your dream, your dream that you've had for your entire life, and then coming to realize the reality of it is that maybe it's not what you thought, or maybe things didn't, it's just not like how it is in your head. And then having to surrender, having to have some detachment or accept that that's not really the way that it is, and being realistic about your life, we can say. All right. So if there's nothing else to add, we can move on to the Gemini Rising.
Geminis. Okay. Well, this is new territory. Gemini, this nodal axis change will, so you'll have North Node in the 11th house, which is this house that's associated with organizations that we're a part of and like communities at large. And also because of that, anything future oriented. So our hopes, wishes, and dreams. So the North Node being here, it's pleasant. But the thing is, it's in the sign of Aries. So there's this fierce independence in our groups and organizations. So I think the dynamic here is to find where you shine and be that, lead in that. This is going to be the time where you're really sorting out where it is that you're best suited to be in a position of initiation or a leadership role, or this, like we're talking about, war general that's very good at tactical and strategic models and things like that. So especially because of the condition that Mars went through to get here. I mean, I feel like with this we had 6 or 7 months of Mars in Gemini, and it was exhausting and frustrating, and it felt like things weren't moving forward. And so I think a lot of that mental training is going to come through as we move through the North Node being in this 11th house now. So yes, implementing strategies for how to take initiative and how to express your courage in being your true self, in showing who you really are. So sometimes we aren't, as cohesive in our groups as we like to think. We are walking contradictions, I like to say. So there are parts of me that don't jive with my groups, and I have to be okay with that. There has to be, parts of me that I'm okay with having associations with other groups and building out maybe other projects with that. So bringing yourself together, bringing ideas together in you, you're the vessel within which contradictions can come together. So yeah, developing courage and embracing your own individuality amongst your peers, I think will be a big focus for this transit.
Yeah, I think also maybe for the ones out there who are kind of still attached to some old romances or something, or somebody, I could feel that maybe now's the time to really cut the cords and move on.
Yeah, I do want to say like the 5th house is like a very dramatic house, and the self-growth of 11th house is to like grow up and like just don't be all so much of the drama. I mean, understand that, okay, drama does exist, but don't like start it just for fun, but instead view it from that objective, like Aquarian 11th house perspective of seeing the bigger picture, and then allowing yourself to be sometimes like the bigger person, the bigger sibling, the elder sibling, something like that, with your love life and your romance and things like that.
Yeah, moving past that desire to hesitate, like we were talking about in the beginning, like hesitation or not moving forward with your idea for the sake of pleasing other people. Like you don't need other people's approval.
Yeah.
You're not a little kid anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of moving past that feeling like a child too, feeling like people can punish you.
Well, then we shall move on to the Cancer Rising. So the Cancer Risings, well, another angular house. we have the North Node in Aries in the 10th house for Cancer Rising, and the South Node in Libra in the 4th house. So the 10th house is that house of your public image, the image that you want to have to create a legacy when you're not here anymore. It can also be the house of like authority figures. And we have the 4th house, which is your inner self, your home, your family, the softer parts of you. And so this is a really interesting time for Cancer Risings. It's a really, like, I think, prominent time to really assert what do you want to be seen as in the public, you know, making the dream come true in terms of how you want to be seen, what kind of legacy you want to leave behind. And having public exposure during these times is definitely going to become a thing. Like if you, for example, you know, want to be famous or something, like, you know, you have that drive now to like really go for it. But at the same time, there is that balancing of the 4th house. So I feel like there is a family karma that may hold you back, that you may have to deal with, that you may have to release or heal from. And so when you think back about what those particular Libra types of family karma and wounding could be, we again can go back to the keywords, which would be like releasing the Gene Keys keywords, releasing seriousness or judgment or unease or inadequacy or failure in your family. And so, you know, the concern of this is what my family would view as successful. Well, is that true for you? Or do you have your own values? Or this is what my family thinks is considered smart or enough in the world in some ways. Well, you are enough just as you are. You're enough just being born on this earth. And so there's like that healing, that shift, moving away and releasing those kinds of ancestral, you know, generational healing. We can even call it kind of like that. And of course, that might take you time going inwards and maybe doing finding a space of grounding in your home in order for you to do that, so that you can come out into the world and really be yourself, like the Aries, the 10th house.
And I feel like even it would be possible maybe to move because of maybe a job offer that you're getting in another location. And that's something you didn't consider yet. But suddenly now maybe you got the job, which you didn't expect anymore. And now you can really feel free to, move your location or move your home to somewhere else, which is better situated if it comes to your new job.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys remember when this was, it was quite a long time ago. It was 2006, 2007 for the Gemini Risings. And I had a bit of a reflection on when the North Node was in my 10th house last time. And that was like when I was graduating from high school, my last years of high school. And I remember I was very ambitious with being an artist. And I was, you know, doing 2 years of art study, and I had a collection of paintings and sculptures and things. And I was like on display in a gallery. And so it really did feel like at that time, there is a dream coming true. There is this public image that I wanted to create that was really happening. But there was also family karma and things like that that had to be dealt with in terms of like, okay, my father didn't want to continue to pay for my art education because art was not a real career, you know, that kind of themes that you'll be balancing for the Cancer Rising. All right. Next we have Leo Rising.
Yes, Leo Risings. The North Node goes into your 9th house. Wow. I think like the next 18 months gonna be kind of life-altering, I would almost say, because you can kind of give yourself permission to change your whole life philosophy, and kind of like your point of view on, or the meaning of life can be completely turned upside down, I would almost say. So there can be kind of fated encounters with new teachers, new mentors coming into your life, and that kind of initiate you to go onto journeys or go to travel, have like new adventures, which gonna help you in the long term to really explore new philosophical belief systems, or maybe even religious systems, or some if it comes to belief systems that you didn't consider yet in your life. Also, you can spend much more time with learning or like really indulging in knowledge that you maybe already wanted to learn for a long time, but you never actually took the time to do it. So you can connect with new concepts and seek answers. That's a really enjoyable time coming for you, I would say. And with just South Node and Libra transiting your third house, which is all related to neighbors, to your neighborhood, to your immediate community as well. So I would say that maybe the people, like the immediate people around you, might not be so important anymore for you, and like this time frame. Even like communication could be maybe a little bit more difficult, I would almost say.
Yeah, and the third house kind of like rules that lower, well, they call it the lower mind, but it's more of just, it's the mind, really just like purely just your mind. And of course, when we go back to like some of the keywords of Libra, and releasing judgment, releasing inadequacy, which is the thought for you. It's like your thought process and how your mindset. So shifting those mindsets into I am enough. And the ninth house coming in and helping it to aid you into a new mindset shift, a new paradigm shift.
Yeah, I'm seeing this as something as simple as you study it in a remote area where you're not able to communicate with other people anymore. So you're so focused on your philosophical endeavor, your higher education, whatever it is that you're studying, that, you're evolving the mind. And meanwhile, no conversations happening. I'm not on social media right now because I'm in the tundra or wherever,
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, that's funny because the third house, I mean, it's also connected to vehicles, no? So maybe like with the South Node being here, it's possible that maybe you're going to lose your car or you're going to change your car. Maybe you're going to be in a community where you don't need a car anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I like that. If there's nothing else to add, then we can move on to the Virgo Rising.
Yeah, so I have Virgo Rising. The North Node will be in your 8th house and the South Node will be in your 2nd house. So North Node in your 8th house, the 8th house is interesting because it's still about partnerships, but it's like this really in-depth, intense, some people relate it with sex or transcendence, this 8th house. This 8th house is about the esteem of others. It's opposite your self-esteem. So the esteem of others can be a lot of different things. Like, does somebody value you enough to give you an inheritance? That's part of your esteem. So these kinds of things. Does somebody value you enough to enter into a contract with you? Does somebody value you enough to find you, wanting of sex? That kind of thing. So this 8th house is about how others find value in us. So you might find yourself orienting yourself to be seen in a way where you're, engaging in partnership. There are also themes of like alchemy here, of transcendence. And so a transformation perhaps of your shared resources or in some way in which you're engaging with other partners that brings a change into your life, whether that is a death in the family causes you to have inheritance, or, taxes are a big part of this too. So exploring these themes and asserting your independence in that, because this is Aries. So it's wild. It's a wild ride, the 8th house, because it's got so many different things that it can apply to this theme in our modern day living. So the theme is the esteem of others, but that can be presented in ways of like contracts, debts, taxes, inheritance, and those kinds of things too. Also, like letting go of criticisms, letting go of judgment of self, because this is the 2nd house. So it's about self-worth and self-value. So recognizing your worth being supported, your worth having people support whatever it is that you are investing yourself into.
Yeah, because if like you're not feeling worthy, like if you're judging your self-worth or you're feeling inadequate with your self-worth, which are the keywords for Libra as well, then when that Mars, that Aries energy goes in the 8th house, you can end up being too aggressive maybe with other people's resources. And of course, I'm going to lightly use the word like abuse of other people's resources here because you're not feeling worthy enough from the inside. So we kind of don't want that situation, that overdoing of that 8th house as well.
Yeah, it makes me also think about maybe healing your relationship to money, like especially if it comes to maybe saving money. Like until now, maybe you kind of were beating yourself up or like decreasing your self-worth because you had the feeling you don't know how to deal with money. And now you can really kind of like get your self-esteem together and just educate yourself. Maybe, okay, how can I save money in better ways? Or how does that whole money thing actually work? That could be also a great time for it.
All right. So there's nothing to add. Then we can move on to the Libra Rising. So the Libra Risings, you have the North Node in Aries going to your 7th house and the South Node in Libra in the 1st house. So it's a reverse. Libra Risings always have this reverse order. But, you know, reversals just require much more balance in general. So it feels to me like with the North Node going to the 7th house of partnerships, of one-to-one relationships of all kinds, contracts and things. Again, this feels like a theme of fate and destiny of people coming into your life at this time and them staying if the relating is authentic. So if you are being the good Aries, you can say, meaning that you are, you know, being yourself, you're being independent in these new people that might be coming into your life, then we can have something really great going and they might even stay. But if the relating is inauthentic, there's too much of like the South Node in Libra being in the 1st house of I'm unsure about myself, I'm feeling inadequate, and then I am compromising or I am not being myself in that new partnership or that relationship that's coming into your life. I'm just gonna do what they want or people please. Then that you will feel like this sort of like karmic, the consequences of that will be maybe they don't stay. And if there is a current relationship right now for you where you're solidifying your bond in some ways, you're signing some contract together, whether that's a work contract or a marriage contract, and the relating hasn't been authentic, you've been giving away too much or you've been taking too much, whichever balance axis you're on, it may not last. It may not feel like there may be like the consequences of that may be, okay, separation as well, similar to the Aries rising there. So I got here, this, of course, the 7th house also rules your open enemies, which means that these, it might become clearer, like, okay, who these people are and what are the themes there, what are the patterns there of the why this has been happening in your life, why some people have become open enemies. We can go back to some of the keywords for the Libra South Node in terms of what you could release now with regards to yourself, with the South Node being the 1st house. So releasing some of the things that you identify with, which may be, identifying as being an inadequate person in general, or identify with the uneasiness of your body in general, or identify with seriousness, being a serious person in general. So kind of letting go of the things that these shadow themes that you may think is you, and moving into a little bit more of your gut, your instinct, being yourself in partnerships.
Yeah, I think for the Libra risings here, there is a lot of like letting go of who you once were, I would say. And then at the same time, kind of finding growth through the partner's growth, maybe even if you are in a relationship. But if you kind of focus only on your partner's growth, I would say, then there's like this really thin line of also forgetting about yourself. And I think there is like this responsibility theme of Libra also coming in of, okay, I can be, or I even have to be responsible of my own desires or my own needs as well, even though I know how important my partner or my partner's growth is for him, her, or for us together.
I also think it's interesting that this nodal axis shift is occurring at the time around the Venus retrograde, and Venus retrograde is kind of ruling the very beginning of this nodal axis shift. And for Libra, that's the chart ruler. Libra rising, that's the chart ruler. And so for everyone, the south node here is ruled by a Venus retrograde in the very beginning. So it's really interesting. And it's in the sign of Leo. So it's very much about, how do I shine and be seen? And so, yeah, that's the, where have we allowed ourselves to be held back by relationship? Where have I allowed my fire to be dimmed in relationship? I think that's going to come into question too, just being that it's co-occurring with that Venus retrograde in the beginning.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned fire, because it is Aries, it's a fire sign. And how did you, or how are you allowing yourself, the fire to be dimmed by that? And I don't know if you guys remember when the North Node was in our 7th house, but I think it was like 2011 to 2012. And I remember for myself, like, that was a time when I lost myself in a relationship. And I didn't realize that was because the North Node was in my 7th house, but I did. I was so focused on that relationship that I was in. I was going to move across the world to be with this person. And I was very young. I wasn't even independent. But then what ended up happening, because I lost myself there, is that my boyfriend at that time broke up with me, because he was just like, this is suffocating. This is like, you're doing too much to, like, with my life. But in the moment that he broke up with me, I was like, oh, freedom, that kind of feeling just came out. Independence. Oh, now I can be whoever I want to be. I can just be myself. So yeah, if that is the case with your current relationship for Libra risings, then that's going to be kind of the karma, the consequences there. Next, we have the Scorpio rising.
Yes, for the Scorpio risings, your North Node is transiting through your 6th house. So this has all to do, again, with like new ways of being of service to others, I would say. There's kind of coming new energy in here for new work direction, or maybe even get new colleagues, or like drawing in new co-workers into your life. On the other side, you could even have kind of fated encounters, maybe with people that are actually of service to you, like people that you are actually hiring. Maybe, I don't know, let's say you're hiring somebody to help you with your, I don't know, social media, or maybe to help you in your garden, for example. But in the end, this person will actually bring to you much more insights and new ways of thinking, or in a completely different theme or topic, which was not related at all to the thing that you actually hired this person from the beginning on. So that's really interesting. And so with the North Node here, like this aspiring energy, you can kind of think of drawing in new health related habits into your life, and also coming up with healthier routines could be really beneficial for you, I would say. And also maybe discovering new ways of eating, or like nutrition related themes, inviting more movement, like more fire of this Aries energy into your life, which can actually on the other side then also make you really busy, probably. So then maybe you have to kind of balance out those energies again to not overdo everything, like, because Aries would like probably to change the nutrition, change the day-to-day routine, and change the working habits all at once. But then to really remind yourself of, okay, one thing at a time, that could be a better way of doing things. Then with the South Node here, which is transiting your 12th house, which is the house of undoing and endings here as well. So that could be a time, this next 18 months, of letting go of some relationships where you now feel, okay, that's no longer serving me. Or also releasing hidden fears, or addictions here might be possible. Addictions maybe to material things, to substances, but also to people might be possible as well. And like really kind of getting out of your hiding zone, maybe like of this kind of like this dark place of the 12th house. Like maybe the last months you were more into like the hermit style, and now you really feel, okay, it's time to go into action and to go out there, and there's no more time for hiding here.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned addiction here with the 12th house. And going back to some of the keywords of Libra, we've got addiction to seriousness, addiction to judgment, addiction to inadequacy, addiction to failure, so on and so forth. Now, maybe to consider, how do I use these addictions to escape from actually taking responsibility for something in my life? And I'm just kind of, it's escaping into that, and it's just not healthy anymore.
All those sounded like Scorpio keywords too.
Yeah.
They're just like, wow, so relatable. It's like we've said it for everybody. But yeah, that's exciting, honestly, to have, because Scorpio is a Mars ruled sign. 6th house is ruled by Mars. Mars takes its joy in the 6th house. So, I mean, for a Scorpio rising, like this feels like start marching, like the battle has begun. Like they've had like this whole time developing this strategic plan, and now they're going to be the warrior, out on the battlefield, like the general. Like they're finally going to have their moment to shine, and it's in this really, dark arena. But I like it. I like it. Yeah.
They're going to love this challenge.
Yeah. I mean, well, I have a good example. My dad's a Scorpio rising, and he just was gifted a lot of molds for fish to make replica fish. And this, I mean, it's a whole new business. It's incredible. And so this is in his 10th house. 6th house is, working with it too. So I will say, like, already have seen blessings come in from Jupiter being positioned in Taurus, and receiving an endowment that way, and then having it affect his day-to-day activities. So yeah, I think this is going to be a really good new endeavor.
Oh, wow, your dad's really busy. He's got a lot going
now on. but now it's like on something that's much easier to do, honestly, than what he has been doing. So it's a nice gift.
All right, so shall we move on to the Sagittarius rising?
Yes, speaking of hopeful. So for Sagittarius rising, this North Node in Aries is going to be in your 5th house, which is fun and playful and flirty. And the 5th house is these themes of innocence and play and childhood. And so really taking creative risks is what I see here, because Aries is initiating new ideas, innovative plans, and going forward with some pioneering new project, So that's cultivating a sense of identity through this process of creation is what I have written. So I think that this will be a fun time to explore the ideas that have been bubbling up that maybe you've been hesitating to initiate because of a fear of judgment from others, particularly from others in your groups and organizations, because 11th house themes are what we're kind of letting go of for Sagittarius rising with South Node in Libra. So releasing this pressure to please other people, especially at the expense of your own goals. So having stifled your own creativity because it's not really serving the collective. That's just my cute little project that I do on the side. No, it actually has impact. It's your expression. It's how you bring ideas. It's how you bring the imaginal space into the physical realm. So give it credit. You will maybe experience a willingness to express your unique self in the presence of those other people that you associate with in organizations, even if it causes temporary discomfort. So this is going to be that thing that we're going to get through is, okay, sometimes I don't feel comfortable, and that's okay. And also releasing any outdated unconscious patterns when it comes to social relationships, when it comes to relating with others, anything that you've been saying to yourself that's been holding you back, especially things that have come up since childhood, themes that you kind of figured out about yourself in childhood. We're going to start reworking those patterns in groups, because it's really important to do this in dialogue and to do this with other people instead of trying to do all that work on your own. So yeah, really getting back out into relational play.
With the North Node in the 5th house, it can happen that maybe past friendships are coming back in some shape or form. Like maybe because they still have to like teach you something, those relationships, maybe to reintegrate something, or maybe really just to like let them go and release those themes or people.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Especially people that maybe your friends or people that you have in your life that are bringing those shadow Libra keywords, like judgment, judgy friends, that could be, or people that make you feel uneasy in your body or inadequate in some ways, and so on and so forth. Hey, so let's move on to the Capricorn Rising. So Capricorn Risings have the North Node in Aries in their 4th house, and the South Node in Libra in the 10th house. I feel like Capricorns would really like it much more if the North Node was in the 10th than the North Node being in the 4th. But yeah, that's the way that it is. And so I feel like, because this is going to be a time for the Capricorn Risings to go inwards and to kind of like come home and do things around the house so that they can feel grounded and take care of their family if you have a family, or be more with your family so that you can find that place of inner safety and security. Because that South Node in Libra, in the 10th house, could also be bringing up themes of how you have been married to your career. Libra being a sign that does rule the 7th house of marriage. And by being too married to your career, what has been some intense energy that needs to be released and into relaxation of the 4th house, we can say. So, if you've felt that you have been, very focused on your career and you're feeling a lot of this feeling of fears of failure, which is also the keyword of the Libra gene key as well, or fearing judgment or fearing inadequacy, these kinds of insecurities are coming back to the 4th house, spending time with your loved ones, grounding yourself in that way, meditation in some ways, before you go back out into your ambitious 10th house themes, and releasing some, of course, we can say inauthentic image or way that you want to be seen in the world that may not be really true to who you are, and figuring out, well, what is true to who I am? What is my Aries? What is my individuality? And then using that space of the 4th house, of the home, of the family, of the people closest to you, to help you get there in some ways. And with Aries North Node, however, being in the 4th house, I'm also sensing into these themes of like anger as well, because Aries 4th house, Aries energy can be kind of like, do you have some deep inner anger there with your family, with your home life? Or have you been releasing some anger in a maybe unhealthy way to the people that you're living with or those closest to you, that maybe now is a really good time to work on that, is to take initiative and do the healing work. Accept yourself for that. One key word for the Aries gene keys was acceptance. Accepting that this is my past, this is what has happened, this is the way that I am and affect the people around me. So now I can work to heal, and I can work to become a more evolved Aries in the home life. Yeah, so just diving into your emotions in general, I think is a really big theme. And of course, we can't forget about the 4th house. Of course, it's the house of home. So relocation or moving might be a theme that comes up for you in one way or another as well.
Yeah, I think in that sense, even maybe quitting a job in order to move somewhere else that feels more aligned or more maybe like home would be a possibility here that is coming up as well in the next 18 months.
Yeah, so just balancing that career life with that home life in general. Like if there's just too much intensity, if your lifestyle, we can say like if your lifestyle and how you want to spend your intimate life at home is not suitable with the career or the image that you're trying to have, something has to be changed in that axis. All right. Do you guys have anything else to add for the Capricorn risings? Okay. So then we have the Aquarius rising.
Yes. For the Aquarius risings out there, your North Node is transiting your third house, which is all about communication, about just like all the mental things, basically. And with the North Node in the third house, that means the South Node is going to be transiting your ninth house, which has all to do with like higher philosophies, education or higher education. So the next 18 months for you going to be really, I think, going to be a time for you to dial up on educational themes here, and really opening up new perspectives that kind of guiding you maybe on a completely different path than you were on before with that North Node here in the third house. I guess with the educational themes that are coming up, you should not only focus on the theoretical themes, I would say. Like focus also especially on the things that you can actually apply practically in your day-to-day life. And this could be, for example, your communication skills here. A theme that could come up is maybe you're trying to use less sophisticated vocabulary, for example, and you're gonna put it like kind of, or you choose to talk with a more down-to-earth kind of vocabulary and words that more of the people out there will actually understand and get what you're saying or what you want. So to really express yourself in new ways, I would say, is an important theme coming up in the next months. And really kind of reflect how you can share the information that you already have, maybe through a blog or through a podcast, or if you're in university, maybe you're going to choose the surrounding that you have more like-minded people or students around you that you can share your information with, or on your job, for example, choose the people that are interested in what you want to say or what you have to say, and then express yourself. With the North Node here in the third house, it's also all about actually short distance traveling. So maybe that's going to be where you put the focus on as well, like more short distance traveling and less long distance traveling, for example. It could be also that maybe you're closing some educational chapter, or maybe you're saying kind of goodbye to like old mentors or old teachers. Here with like the South Node, like the release points or the letting go of like this educational higher things there in the ninth house, and getting involved in new communities or neighborhoods that maybe fit more into your scheme of what you're interested right now or what you want to talk about.
Yeah, I'm imagining a school of fish, because you're like leaving, like you said, graduating. So moving out of a relationship with a mentor into now what feels like a new environment, a completely different medium that you're swimming in, because now you're the young fish, in a new tank, you could say.
And last but not least, for the Pisces rising.
Yes, always last, never least. Always suspended in the liminal space. Yes, and while we're on the fish analogy, might as well. That's probably what led me to thinking about that. So for Pisces, the North Node is going into your second house. So this is going to be bringing up themes of self-worth and your own personal values. So those are going to be in the spotlight. They're going to be you're going to be establishing where you are, self-reliant, able to acquire your own resources, able to go out and get what it is that you need. And maybe even taking financial risks here, because Aries is a little bit risky. Aries wants to, take a chance and be pioneering. So that could be something to look out for, is that it's, something you're maybe investing a lot into, and maybe it feels like there's a lot of need for that up front. So just kind of be aware of and discerning of where you're applying your finances, because again, Aries fire, so burn your money. And for you, the South Node is in your 8th house. So this is going to be a lot to do with themes of control and trust, because this is about shared resources. Again, I was talking earlier about how complicated this 8th house is, because it's transcending the material. It's about our relationships with others, as far as others find us worthy of being in relationship with. So this is contracts, debts, taxes, alimony, anything to do with those kinds of fiscal endeavors, because that's how we find value in this modern world. But it's also to do with things like secrets and, really in-depth taboo topics. So yeah, imagine, releasing old patterns in relationship, releasing fears, because this is a lot to do with like that we were talking about, like instinctual understanding, like intuitive knowing. And so releasing also, control, like feeling like you have any sense of control in certain decisions that you're making, just allowing, and maybe even sitting in meditation and allowing time to be inserted in between you and the decisions that you're making. So those are some of the things that I'm seeing, is really trying to balance out your relationship with control, and also, having boundaries around where you're putting your investments, but being willing to take risks at the same time. And so you've really got to be able to discern what it is that feels really alive for you when you're making your decisions, and not making decisions out of a place of fear.
Yeah. Also with that Aries energy here, maybe thinking about financial independence could be a theme coming up. So maybe you have like the intrinsic motivation to check in with your resources. What do you have in order to kind of make that financial independence happen? Or what does it even mean to you? I think that could be like interesting to explore as well.
Yeah, and the 8th house kind of also being the house of sexuality. I thought it would be fun to apply some of the Libra gene key keywords to that. And so, of course, that would be, having or needing to have some decrease in, sexual judgment, sexual inadequacy, sexual unease. And because, I would say that amongst all of the zodiac signs, Aries might just be the one that is most straightforward and I don't want to say like uncomplicated, but just the most like that's what you see and that's what you get. Kind of like a little bit has that part to it, right?
Yeah.
So instead of like sinking into the comfort zone of judging yourself in your sexuality and your psychology, or just sinking into the unease that you have in your sexual life, sometimes it's just you have to take initiative and without thinking, like overthinking that part of your life, because sex is physical first of all. Then we can work through some of the other things that may be, there. But I'm really feeling here like the physical side of the sexuality and the sensuality. Sometimes it's just simple. Like it's just like, okay, that makes me feel good. And I'm going to go for that without thinking, that makes me feel good, but this or that, or what do they want? Or it just makes me feel good. That kind of an energy without having to be like, well, what do you like? Okay. And then my body is uneasy because I'm thinking, what do I need to do for you? That kind of a vibe and energy that I'm feeling with this transit.
Yeah. And it's so important to realize that that's what you're presenting, that unease. So it's not the attraction maybe that you have that you're presenting because you're hesitating. And so you're covering it. And so that cloak or that veil that you're putting between you and the other is representing something that you are not. And so that's what you're going to attract in, is like a lot of mixed signaling. And yeah, you want to be really clear about your intentions.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so that's it, going through all the rising signs and the North Node in Aries transit. Do you guys have any last messages through this transit for the audience out there?
Yeah, I think, we've been looking at things that matter to us. And so now the focus is going to be on what makes us feel good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, whichever house that is. Yeah.
Whichever house that is. Feel good.
Well, then that's it for today, beautiful souls. If you like this video, then do give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. And do feel free to leave some of your experiences throughout this transit in the comment below. We'd love to read them and read about your experiences. And a quick reminder as well that we are having a masterclass, a free astrology, human design gene keys masterclass, as well as a free ritual masterclass that's coming up later this month. So if you're interested in that, learning more, growing more, discovering more about yourself, then do head over to the links below, -soul.com, and sign up there. Right. So that's it. Have a lovely day, beautiful souls. Bye.
Bye.
Where are we? Oh, okay. Libra Rising. Yes. I'm sorry. I gotta get my charger for my laptop.
It was such a somber. I'll look more in the loss of the battery life. Are we watching her scramble? I was gonna wear red too.
Yes, Aries gotta wear red. You're sort of wearing red, right? I think.
It's kind of pink. Yes, and there's red in it. Red, pink, and blue. Oh, red, white, and blue, because Miss America here. We've got 4th of July coming up. So,
all right.
I'm wearing red pants.
Ooh. Oh,
it's for the strawberries.
Yeah. For strawberry picking.
I think with the North Node. I think with the North Node. No. Oh my God.